The great hall stretched far beyond what human eyes could easily see. Golden light poured down from crystal formations that hung like frozen stars from the curved ceiling. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the center of it all, feeling very small. Around him, creatures from 12 different worlds sat in floating chairs that moved without sound. The Zephyrians looked like living glass, their bodies catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns on the walls. When they laughed, it sounded like wind chimes dancing in a gentle breeze. The Draknari were huge and covered in dark scales that seemed to eat the light around them. Their deep voices rumbled like distant thunder when they found something funny, and they were all laughing. Now Jake had given his speech about Earth joining their alliance. He had talked about human courage and creativity. He had mentioned their recent discovery of faster-than-light travel. He had even brought pictures of human cities and art, but none of it seemed to matter. So the little humans want to play with. "The big boys," said Ambassador Veltar from the hegemony. His 4 purple eyes blinked one after another as he spoke. His mouth was too wide for his face and filled with sharp teeth that gleamed when he smiled. How cute. More laughter filled the hall. The Etherians, who usually stayed quiet and serious, were making soft clicking sounds that Jake had learned meant they were amused. Even the Corvani delegates, who looked almost human except for their blue skin and third arm, were shaking their heads and smiling. Jake felt his face getting hot. 3 months he had been coming to these meetings. 3 months of the same thing, over and over. They would listen to him talk, ask a few questions, and then treat him like a child who had wandered into an adult conversation. "Your weapons shoot little metal bullets," said Commander Thekmer of the Draknari military. His voice was so deep it seemed to come from inside Jake's chest. "Our ships have shields that turn your strongest bombs into pretty lights. What exactly do you think you could offer us?" From the observation deck above, Captain Lisa Hayes watched the whole thing happen again. Her hands were pressed into tight fists at her sides. She had been a soldier for 15 years before becoming a diplomat. She knew how to fight. She knew how to win. But here, watching Jake get laughed at by aliens who thought humans were nothing special, all she could do was stand and watch. The worst part was that the aliens were not completely wrong. Human ships were slower than alien ships. Human weapons were weaker than alien weapons. Human technology was like comparing a stone knife to a laser sword. But that did not mean humans were stupid or weak. It just meant they were newer to the game. Lisa thought about her brother back on Earth. He was working on some secret project for the military. He could not tell her what it was, but he had said something once that stuck with her. Sometimes, the best way to win is to fight a completely different kind of war, he had said. She wondered what he meant by that dot down on the main floor. Jake was trying to keep his voice steady. Humanity may be young compared to your civilizations, but we learn fast. We adapt. We find solutions that others miss. Solutions, repeated Veltar, and his laugh sounded like breaking glass. Child, we have been exploring space since before your planet had cities. We have fought wars across 1,000 star systems. We have technologies that can reshape reality itself. What solutions could you possibly have that we have not already discovered? The other aliens nodded and made their various sounds of agreement. The Corvani representative held up her tablet and showed pictures of human cities next to pictures of alien megastructures that covered entire moons. The difference was clear to everyone in the room. Jake looked up at the observation deck where Lisa was watching. For just a moment, their eyes met. She gave him a small nod that said, "Keep going. Do not give up." It was not much, but it helped him find his voice again. "We do not have your advanced technology," Jake said, "but we have something else. We have the ability to think differently. When we are backed into a corner, We do not surrender. We find another way. Another way, said the Etherian delegate in her soft, musical voice. How interesting. And what way would that be? Jake realized he did not have a good answer. Humanity was asking to join the galactic community, but they were doing it from a position of weakness. They had nothing to trade except hope and determination. In a galaxy full of species with energy weapons and reality-bending technology, hope did not seem like much. Time will tell, Jake said finally. It was not a great answer, but it was honest. The aliens looked at each other and made more of their amused sounds. Veltar leaned forward in his floating chair. Very well, little human. We will give you time. 6 months to show us what makes your species special. If you cannot prove that humanity deserves a place in our alliance, then you will return to your little corner of space and stay there. And if we refuse, Jake asked. The laughter stopped. The great hall became very quiet. Veltar's 4 eyes focused on Jake like targeting systems locking onto a threat. Then we will make the choice for you, Veltar said. His voice was soft now, which somehow made it more frightening than when he was laughing. The galaxy has room for many different species, human, but it has no room for species that cannot follow the rules. Jake felt a chill run down his back. This was not just about joining their club anymore. This was about whether humanity would be allowed to expand beyond Earth at all. The aliens were not just dismissing human technology. They were drawing a line in space and telling humanity not to cross it. The meeting ended the same way all the others had ended. The aliens filed out through doors that opened with thought instead of touch. Their floating chairs carried them away like leaves on an invisible river. Soon Jake was alone in the great hall, with only the crystal lights for company. Lisa came down from the observation deck and stood beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They both knew what had just happened. Humanity had been given an ultimatum disguised as a challenge. 6 months, Lisa said finally. 6 months, Jake agreed. What neither of them knew was that far away, in a secret facility hidden in Earth's asteroid belt, other humans were already working on the answer to Veltar's challenge. They had been working on it for years, in fact. And when they were ready to show the galaxy what humanity could really do, the laughter would stop forever. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something impossible was happening. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around a region that looked completely empty to any observer. But if someone could see through the illusion, they would find the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. The USS Phantom drifted in what scientists called folded space. Captain Greg Murphy walked through corridors that existed in a pocket dimension, separate from normal reality. The walls around him shimmered with a strange blue light that came from exotic matter generators. This matter was so rare and difficult to create that only 3 facilities in human space could produce it. Greg had been captain of the Phantom for 2 years, but he still felt amazed every time he thought about what his ship could do. The hull was made from materials that did not technically exist in the same space as everything else. When the phase drive was active, the entire ship could slip between dimensions like a ghost walking through walls. "Captain," called Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster from the bridge. "We are receiving a coded transmission from Fleet Command." Greg made his way to the bridge, passing crew members who worked at stations that monitored impossible technologies. The quantum field generators hummed with power that could tear holes in reality itself. The exotic matter containment systems kept substances stable that should have exploded the moment they were created. Amy was studying her displays with a worried expression. She had been working on the Phantom project since the beginning, back when it was just theories and mathematical equations. Now she was watching those theories become a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "What does Command want?" Greg asked. The diplomatic mission has failed again, Amy said. The Galactic Council is not just refusing our membership application anymore. They are talking about containment. Greg felt his stomach drop. Containment was the word the aliens used when they decided a species was too dangerous or too annoying to be allowed to expand. It meant being trapped in your home system forever, watched by alien patrol ships that would destroy any vessel that tried to leave. "Show me the full message," Greg said. The main display lit up with Admiral Frank Cooper's face. The Admiral looked tired and angry. Behind him, Greg could see the underground command center beneath Colorado Springs where the Shadow Fleet project was coordinated. "Phantom, this is Fleet Command," the Admiral said. "The situation has become critical. The hegemony has issued formal notice that human expansion beyond the Sol system is now prohibited. Any human vessel found outside designated boundaries will be destroyed without warning." Greg and Amy exchanged glances. This was what they had been preparing for, but neither of them had wanted it to happen so soon. The Admiral continued. "President Carter has authorized the activation of Project Nightfall. All Shadow Fleet vessels are to proceed to Phase 2 readiness. We are no longer hiding our capabilities." The message ended, and the bridge became very quiet. Phase 2 readiness meant that the Phantom and her sister ships were now considered active military assets. The time for secrets was almost over. "Amy, get me a status report on all systems," Greg said, "and send a message to the other Shadow Fleet captains. We need to coordinate our response." While Amy worked at her station, Greg thought about the path that had led humanity to this moment. 5 years ago, a team of scientists at the European Space Agency had made a breakthrough in quantum mechanics that changed everything. They discovered that space and time were not as solid as everyone thought. With the right technology, matter could be shifted into parallel dimensions where different physical laws applied, and military applications were obvious immediately. A ship that could exist outside normal space would be invisible to all known detection methods. It could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear again before the enemy could respond. But the technology was so complex and expensive that only a few ships could be built. Greg walked to the observation deck and looked out at the asteroid field around them. Somewhere out there, 11 other ships like the Phantom were hidden in their own pockets of folded space. Each ship represented years of work by the best scientists and engineers humanity had to offer. Commander Ryan Bell coordinated the Shadow Fleet from a hidden base on the far side of Earth's moon. He had been the one to suggest using phase technology for military purposes. Before that, he had been a theoretical physicist who published papers that only a dozen people in the world could understand. Ryan's message came through the secure quantum communication system that connected all the Shadow Fleet vessels. "All captains, this is Shadow Command. The aliens want to see what humans can do when they are cornered. Let us show them." Greg smiled at that. Ryan had a way of making impossible situations sound almost easy. But Greg knew the truth. 12 ships against the entire Galactic Council was still terrible odds, even with their advanced technology. "Captain," Amy said, "I am reading multiple alien patrol fleets moving toward human space. Long-range sensors show at least 30 ships." "In the first wave." 30 ships, Greg repeated. "Any idea what species?" "Mixed fleet," Amy said. "I am seeing Draknari destroyers, hegemony cruisers, and what looks like Etherian stealth ships. They are not taking any chances." Greg nodded. The aliens were sending their best ships and most experienced crews. They expected human resistance, but they had no idea what they were really facing. "Set course for the outer edge of human space," Greg ordered, "and send a message to Shadow Command. Tell them the Phantom is ready to demonstrate what human engineering can accomplish." As the ship began to move through its pocket of folded space, Greg thought about the crew members serving under him. They were all volunteers who had given up normal lives to serve on a ship that officially did not exist. Their families thought they were dead. Their friends had been told they died in training accidents, but they had all believed in the mission. Humanity needed protection, and the Shadow Fleet was the best protection they could provide. When the aliens looked at humans, they saw primitive weapons and slow ships. They did not see the creativity and determination that had built the Phantom. Soon, the galaxy would learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake that few species lived to regret. The Shadow Fleet was ready to step out of the darkness and show the universe what humans could really do when they stopped playing by the rules. Commander Thakmer of the Draknari Third Fleet felt good about his mission. His 5 destroyers moved through space at the edge of human territory, like sharks circling wounded prey. The humans had been given their warning, and now it was time to make sure they understood what would happen if they tried to leave their home system. The bridge of his flagship was dark and comfortable, the way Draknari liked it. Red lights cast deep shadows across the metal walls. His crew moved quietly at their stations, checking weapons and scanning for any sign of human resistance. But there was nothing to see except empty space and a few primitive mining stations. Weak. Species always fold when faced with real power, Thakmer growled to his tactical officer. These humans will learn to stay in their cage like good little pets. Lieutenant Graktar nodded from his weapons station. He had served under Thakmer for 10 years and had seen dozens of primitive species submit to Galactic Council authority. Should we destroy one of their mining platforms as an example, Commander? Not yet, Thakmer said. Let them see our ships first. Let them understand how hopeless resistance would be. Fear is often more effective than violence. The Draknari Fleet continued its patrol, moving past human installations that seemed pathetically defenseless. The mining stations had no weapons and barely any shields. The few human cargo ships in the area turned and fled the moment they detected the alien warships. Thakmer was reviewing target priorities when his sensor operator made a confused sound. Commander, I am reading something strange. Define strange, Thakmer said without looking up from his display. The destroyer Bloodclaw just disappeared from our formation. Now Thakmer looked up. Disappeared how? Did it jump to hyperspace? No, sir. It was there, and now it is not. No hyperspace signature, no explosion, no debris. The ship is simply gone. Thakmer felt the first touch of unease. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard of a ship just disappearing. Contact the Bloodclaw immediately. I am trying, Commander. No response on any frequency. Emergency alarms began to sound across the remaining 4 destroyers. Red lights flashed faster as the crews tried to understand what had happened to their sister ship. Scanner operators checked and rechecked their instruments, but the readings were impossible to believe. Sir, the sensor operator said with growing fear in his voice, I am detecting massive energy readings from empty space. Something is out there, but our scanners cannot identify what it is. 2,000 kilometers away, Captain Greg Murphy watched the alien patrol from the bridge of the USS Phantom. His ship existed in folded space, invisible to normal sensors, and completely undetectable by conventional technology. The Draknari destroyer they had captured was now trapped in the same pocket dimension, its crew unconscious from the dimensional shift. Target the second destroyer, Greg ordered. Prepare for phase displacement. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster worked at her station with practiced efficiency. The exotic matter generators hummed with increasing power as they prepared to fold. Another section of space. Phase drive ready, Captain. Locking on to the alien vessel. Execute. The Phantom slipped through the barriers between dimensions like a needle through fabric. For a moment that lasted forever, the human warship existed. In the same space as the Draknari destroyer, but in a different layer of reality. The alien ship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, could not defend against an attack that came from outside normal space. The second destroyer vanished as completely as the first one. Its crew had just enough time to realize something was wrong before their ship was pulled into the phase dimension. To the remaining Draknari vessels, it looked like their comrade had simply ceased to exist. 3 ships gone, Thicmer whispered. His massive hands gripped the arms of his command chair until the metal began to bend. How is this possible? His communications officer was frantically sending messages to Fleet Command, but the answers that came back were no help. No one in the Galactic Council had ever encountered technology like this. Ships did not just disappear without a trace. "Commander," his tactical officer said with panic creeping into his voice, "I am reading impossible energy signatures all around. U.S. Whatever is doing this, we are surrounded." Thicmer made the only decision that made sense. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Get us out of here now." But it was too late. The USS Phantom had already locked on to the third destroyer. Greg watched as another alien ship was pulled into folded space, leaving only empty vacuum where it had been moments before. The remaining 2 Draknari destroyers managed to escape into hyperspace, but they carried with them a message that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Council. Humans had technology that could make ships disappear. They could attack from nowhere and vanish, again without a trace. Similar scenes were playing out across the border of human space. The USS Spectre, under Commander Ryan Bell, had eliminated an entire hegemony patrol squadron near Jupiter. The USS Shadow had made 3 Etherian stealth ships simply cease to exist near the outer colony's dot in the space of 6 hours. 21 alien warships had vanished without explanation. The survivors who managed to escape brought back reports that sounded like impossible fantasies. Ships that appeared inside shield barriers, weapons that struck from empty space, human vessels that existed and did not exist at the same time. Ambassador Jake Morrison received the emergency communication while he was still on the Alien Council station. The holographic display showed Admiral Cooper's face, but this time the Admiral was smiling. "Jake, tell your alien friends that the containment of human space is unacceptable. Our patrol ships have encountered their enforcement fleets, and the results speak for themselves. If they want to negotiate, they can do it from a position of respect instead of mockery." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, so every species in the Council could hear it. The humans were no longer asking for permission to join the galactic community. They were announcing that they already had the power to take what they wanted. Within hours, emergency sessions were being called on every major world in the galaxy. The species that had laughed at human primitive technology were now desperately trying to understand how their most advanced warships could be defeated so easily. The age of human expansion had begun, and it had started with a demonstration that would be remembered for generations. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for the last time. Admiral Cathara of the Etherian Navy had seen many battles in her long career, but she had never commanded a fleet like this one. 300 warships from 12 different species hung in space at the edge of human territory, representing the largest military force the Galactic Council had ever assembled. Her flagship, the Starbreaker, was a massive vessel that could destroy entire moons with its main weapons. Around her, Draknari battle cruisers bristled with armor and guns. Hegemony dreadnoughts carried reality-warping weapons that could tear holes in space. Itself, Zephyrian crystal ships hummed with energy that could turn matter into pure light. "This human species has gone too far," Cathara said to her staff officers. 21 ships destroyed or missing in a single day. No distress calls, no debris, no explanation. They dare to threaten the peace we have maintained for 1,000 years. Commander Veltash of the Hegemony leaned forward in his chair. His 4 eyes glowed with anger as he studied the tactical displays. Our patrol fleets reported impossible phenomena before they were destroyed. Ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that bypass all known defenses. These humans have developed something dangerous. Dangerous or not, rumbled General Thokmarov. The Draknari forces, 300 ships against 12 primitive human vessels should be sufficient. We will crush their resistance and remind the galaxy why the Council maintains order. Cathara nodded, but she felt less confident than her. Words suggested. The reports from the surviving ships were disturbing. Technology that could make vessels disappear violated every law of physics the Council understood. If humans had truly developed such capabilities, this battle might not be as simple as everyone expected. On Earth, President Helen Carter stood. In the war room deep, beneath the White House, the massive displays showed the alien fleet gathering at the edge of human space, and the sight made her stomach tight with fear. 300 ships against 12 seemed like impossible odds, even with the Shadow Fleet's advanced technology. Admiral Cooper, she said, are you certain our ships can handle this? Admiral Frank Cooper looked older than his 60 years, but his voice was steady when he replied. Madam President, the Shadow Fleet represents the best of human engineering and creativity. Our phase shift technology gives us advantages the aliens cannot counter. But I will not lie to you. This will be the ultimate test. The communication screen flickered to life, showing Commander Ryan Bell aboard the USS Spectre. Behind him, the bridge hummed with exotic energy from the phase generators. Mr. President, all Shadow Fleet vessels are in position. We are ready to show the galaxy what human determination can accomplish. President Carter took a deep breath. Admiral Cooper, you have full authorization to deploy the Shadow Fleet. Show them that humanity will not be contained. Captain Gregg. Murphy received the final orders as the USS Phantom moved through folded space toward the alien armada. His crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency, preparing weapons and systems that existed outside normal reality. The exotic matter generators charged up to full power, creating fields that bent space and time around the ship. Amy, what are we looking at? Gregg asked. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster studied her displays with professional focus. 300 ships arranged in standard Council formation. Heavy cruisers in the center, destroyers on the flanks, support vessels. In the rear, they are confident in their numbers. Confidence can be a weakness, Gregg said. Signal the other Shadow Fleet captains. Synchronized assault on my mark. The alien fleet hung in space like a metal constellation, their ships gleaming in the light of distant stars. Admiral Cathara felt satisfied as she looked at the tactical display. No force in galactic history had ever faced such overwhelming firepower. Begin the advance, she ordered. Target any human vessels that appear. Show them the price of defying the Council. The massive fleet began to move forward, their engines creating trails of exotic particles that lit up space like aurora. Energy. Weapons charged to full power, ready to destroy anything that dared to oppose them. Shield generators hummed with protective fields that could stop the most powerful attacks, but they could not stop attacks that came from outside normal space. First sign something was wrong came when the lead Draknari battlecruiser simply exploded from the inside. There had been no visible weapon, no energy beam, no missile. The massive ship just came apart as if something had detonated within its heavily armored hull. Impossible, Admiral Cathara whispered. Our sensors show no hostile contacts. Then, the USS Phantom materialized directly in front of the Starbreaker, existing in the same space, but shifted into a different dimension. For a moment that seemed to last forever, The two ships occupied the same location without touching. Then the human warship fired. The exotic matter torpedo passed through the Etherian flagship's shields as if they were not there. It struck the engine core and pulled a section of the ship into folded space, creating a hole that exposed the interior to vacuum. Emergency alarms screamed as atmosphere rushed out through the impossible breach. Across the alien formation, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. The Shadow Fleet had spread throughout the enemy armada, each ship striking from a different angle. Human weapons fired from empty space, targeting crucial systems and command centers. The USS Spectre appeared inside a hegemony dreadnought's shield barrier and released a phase mine that tore the massive vessel in half. The USS Shadow materialized beneath a Zephyrian crystal ship and fired directly into its energy core, causing a chain reaction that destroyed 3 nearby vessels. All ships' evasive maneuvers. Admiral Kethara shouted into her communicator. Target the human vessels wherever they appear. But how do you target ships that exist in folded space? The alien weapons fired at empty vacuum, while human attacks struck with devastating precision. Energy beams meant to destroy planets passed harmlessly through locations where Shadow Fleet ships had been moments before. Commander Ryan Bell coordinated the assault from the USS Spectre, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history fell apart under attacks it could not comprehend or counter. All Shadow Fleet vessels maintain phase displacement. Show them what happens when they underestimate human engineering. Within 2 hours, half the alien fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors found themselves fighting an enemy that violated every tactical doctrine they knew. Ships that could appear anywhere, weapons that bypassed all defenses, technology that made mockery of their advanced civilizations. Admiral Kethara made the only decision that made sense. All surviving ships retreat to hyperspace. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see. The remnants of the great fleet fled in disorder, leaving behind wreckage that would serve as a monument to the day the galaxy learned to respect human capability. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had proven they deserved a place among the stars. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began in chaos. Representatives from 12 species filled the Great Hall, but instead of the usual calm discussions, angry voices echoed off the crystal walls. The chamber that had once been filled with laughter at human weakness now buzzed with fear and confusion. Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony stood at his speaking platform, his 4 purple eyes darting nervously around the room. 3 days had passed since the defeat of the Great Fleet, and no one yet understood how it had happened. Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented situation. 300 of our finest warships defeated by 12 human vessels that should not even exist. The holographic displays showed the aftermath of the battle. Massive alien dreadnoughts cut in half by weapons that had fired from empty space. Battle cruisers with holes torn through their hulls by forces that bypassed every known defense. The wreckage field stretched for thousands of kilometers, a monument to the day the galaxy learned that humanity was not what it seemed. Commander Thikmer of the Draknari military limped to his own platform. His left arm was in a medical brace from when his ship had been attacked by something invisible. The humans possess technology that violates the fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. Their ships appear and disappear at will. Their weapons strike from dimensions we cannot access. The Etherian delegate, her normally calm voice shaking with emotion, added her own testimony. Admiral Kethara reports that human vessels materialized inside our shield barriers. They attacked from within our own defensive formations. This is not simply advanced technology. This is something entirely new. In the observation gallery above, Ambassador Jake Morrison watched the proceedings with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. For months he had endured their mockery and dismissal. Now these same beings were desperately trying to understand how their technological superiority had been so completely shattered. Captain Lisa Hayes stood beside him, her military uniform crisp and professional. She had been recalled from diplomatic duty and given a new assignment as liaison between the Shadow Fleet and the Council. "They are afraid?" she said quietly. "Good," Jake replied. "Fear breeds respect. Maybe now they will listen when humanity speaks." On Earth, President Helen Carter addressed the world from the Oval Office. Behind her, displays showed the 12 ships of the Shadow Fleet hanging in orbit above the planet. The vessels shimmered with exotic energy, their hulls rippling with the same technology that had devastated the alien armada. "My fellow citizens," the president said, "today humanity takes its rightful place among the stars. We have proven that innovation and determination can overcome any obstacle. The galaxy will no longer dismiss us as primitive children." Admiral Frank Cooper watched the address from his command center. The past week had been the most stressful of his career, but also the most rewarding. The Shadow Fleet project had succeeded beyond his wildest hopes. Humanity now possessed the most advanced military technology in known space. Commander Ryan Bell appeared on the secure communication screen, his face showing exhaustion, but also pride. "Admiral, all Shadow Fleet vessels report ready for phase 2 operations. The Phantom and her sister ships are prepared to demonstrate our defensive capabilities to any species that might still doubt human resolve." "Excellent work, Ryan," Admiral Cooper said. "But I think the demonstration phase is over. Now comes the harder part. We have to show the galaxy that we can be trusted with this power." Back in the council chambers, the debate continued for hours. Some species called for immediate surrender to human demands. Others suggested trying to develop countermeasures against phase technology. A few proposed attempting to steal or copy human innovations. But gradually, a consensus began to emerge. The Zephyrian representative, her crystalline form casting rainbow patterns on the walls, spoke for many when she said, "We have 2 choices. We can acknowledge that humanity has earned a place among us, or we can continue to oppose them and face the consequences." The vote, when it finally came, was not even close. 11 species voted to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council. Only the Draknari abstained, and that was more from wounded pride than any real opposition. Ambassador Jake Morrison received the formal invitation while standing in the same hall where he had been laughed at just weeks before. The document was written on crystal that would last for thousands of years, ensuring that humanity's acceptance would never be forgotten. The Galactic Council extends full membership to the human species. Veltar read from the ancient ceremonial script, with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities that such membership entails. May this mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation and mutual respect. The ceremony was broadcast across human space and to every world in the galaxy. Children on Earth watched as their species officially joined the community of spacefaring civilizations. On alien worlds, beings who had dismissed humans as primitive now studied recordings of the Shadow Fleet with newfound appreciation. Captain Greg Murphy stood on the bridge of the USS Phantom as his ship materialized in normal space above Earth. The phase generators powered down for the first time in weeks, allowing the crew to see their home planet without the distortion of folded space. It had never looked more beautiful. "Amy, signal Fleet Command," Greg said. "Tell them the Phantom is returning to base." Mission accomplished. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster smiled as she sent the message. "Captain, we are receiving congratulations from ships across the system. The entire fleet wants to thank us for what we accomplished." "We did not do this alone," Greg replied. "Every human who believed we could be more than what others thought we were contributed to this victory." Every scientist who pushed the boundaries of physics, every engineer who built the impossible, every crew member who volunteered for a mission that officially did not exist. The USS Phantom and her 11 sister ships took their positions as guardians of human space. Their exotic hulls gleamed in the light of Sol, no longer hidden, but displayed for all the galaxy to see. The Shadow Fleet had stepped from the darkness and shown the universe that humanity would never again be underestimated. In the months that followed, human technology became the most sought-after commodity in galactic trade. Species that had once scorned human engineering now competed to form partnerships and alliances. The Etherians offered cultural exchanges. The Draknari proposed military cooperation. Even the proud Zephyrians acknowledged human innovation as revolutionary. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came when Veltar himself requested a private meeting with Ambassador Jake Morrison. The hegemony representative, who had once laughed at human primitive technology, now spoke with genuine respect. "Your species has taught us a valuable lesson," Veltar said. "Never judge capability by current achievement. We looked at your weapons and ships and assumed we understood your potential. We were wrong." Jake smiled, remembering the months of mockery and dismissal. Humanity has always been at its best when facing impossible odds. When you backed us into a corner, you forced us to show what we could really accomplish. The galaxy had learned that underestimating humanity was a mistake no species would make twice. The age of human expansion had begun, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple demonstration that respect must be earned, and once earned, it would be maintained.